Start. Welcome back to the Becoming More podcast. We are on episode number 18. Before we get started, I want to ask all of you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show. Here in Becoming More, we go in depth talking to some amazing people about how they have changed their lives dramatically and have inspired others to work towards the same. Today, I'm joined by Anthony Cosenza. Anthony, we've known each other since grade school.
Yeah, for a while.
So it's nice to have you on the show. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just another day, another dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anthony, each episode, I like to ask each guest what is the bottom line of your journey because Anthony said so. To quote Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so far, I've lost about 100 pounds. It's been a journey so far, and that was done over about 12 months in 2020. So, I think while everyone kind of went through the whole COVID thing and lots of not great things happened in 2020, I kind of took that opportunity to lose 100 pounds. So
that's awesome. And yeah, I know we've chatted a lot about over the time about weight and stuff. And I also similarly used 2020 to my advantage too, because I had extra time.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had something similar. I mean, you also have children, so you maybe didn't have a lot of extra time, but just being able to use that time when you saw so many people, because I think there was like a statistic that anyone like millennials gained like 40 pounds during the pandemic, and you lost 100 in that year, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting. People have said the same. People have said that they're like, oh, it seems like people have gained weight being home and things like that. And I don't know. I'm not quite sure if it was, where I was like, you know what, I need something to be consistent, so we'll do that. I mean, I still work, I work in healthcare, and so like I still have to show up. So my work schedule didn't really change, but the kids were home pretty much every day. They did virtual pretty much all year, and so it was kind of like, all right, I need to make meals all the time and stuff like that. And so yeah, it just kind of fell into place where that mindset kind of clicked for me.
And that's awesome when that happens, because I mean, once you hit the mindset barrier, like I call it a barrier, because like you can even I even lost 100 pounds without having changed my mindset, and then it took until after losing that and it's mostly the like trying to lose the next 100 that got me in the mindset change. But yeah, so I like to usually talk about, like, usually guests I haven't actually met in real life. I quote real life. Like, the funny thing is, like, we've known each other or of each, like, we weren't, I don't want to say we were friends in grade school, but we knew who we were because we were both the big kids.
Yeah.
In different grades, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so we've known each other since like the mid 90s, and this is 2021. And throughout like high school, just saw each other, and we both were big, so it's just the head nod thing, and as we're going down the halls and stuff like that. So I know that you were heavy growing up, so that's usually what I ask guests what their background is. But why don't you talk about like your background as a child, like about your weight, if you had like did you try any like diets, like, because I know that we all know there were fad diets in the 90s and 2000s, and usually I ask, did you have like a big gain at one time, like say like some people have like a year when like you gain like 50 or 60 pounds, or was it just like a progression as you were, even though you were big, just a progression upward to a certain point?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, growing up, like you said, I was definitely a big kid growing up. Played football from the time I was like 5 until 13. I actually started playing in 8th grade, playing for the high school team. And during one of the summer practices, I got hurt, and tore some things up in my ankle and my knee and stuff. And so the doctor was like, you can't sign you off to play anymore. But I mean, growing up, it was just kind of my whole family is kind of big. I feel like our culture, our family dynamic centers around food, you know, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was lots of barbecues and spaghetti and meatballs and things like that. And so it was kind of encouraged though, like playing football. I was a lineman, and so I was still quick even as a big kid because we ran a lot at football. But you know, coaches were always like, "Go home and eat meat and potatoes. You need to be, you know, stuff like that." And so uh, yeah, that was just the mindset. That was, you know, no one ever was like, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't eat so much."
Mm-hmm.
But I think as a kid, like I was, you know, heavier, and I guess, I mean, I think I steadily gained weight, you know, as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, but because I was playing football and very active. I mean, I was always active in something. Um, you know, it didn't really hit as much. I think when I got to college, I think is really when I started to see like bigger gains, and then obviously after college, like I look back at pictures now and I'm like, oh wow, I was thinner then. So while you're in it, I didn't see that, you know. But I mean, obviously, I was like, oh, I have to buy bigger clothes, you know. So I knew it
Mm-hmm.
on some level, but I didn't see it until I look back and see pictures. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm kind of the same way whenever I do the like I do the transformation posts on Tuesdays and stuff like that.
yeah,
I don't do it all the time, but when I do it and I see myself and I'm like, like I don't when you're in it, you don't really realize it.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
then like, you know, now I'm like the weight I probably was at the end of high school.
yeah,
And it's insane because it feels a lot different now being like much more active and fit than I was then. Because
sure.
you know what I mean, and because I was more of a nerd, uh, computer stuff and all that, and
Yeah,
yeah, so it's just a lot different once you do change, and you're like, why didn't I do this earlier? But you know, everyone has their journey, so you can't really say that, but sometimes you think it. So so you talked about how you know gain like up through college and all that, and then even after college, because then you get like into routines and all that, right? And
exactly.
so like what was like the so you decided to go last year, you lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Were there like was there like an event that like made you like decide to just start, or was it like just an accumulation of factors throughout like experiencing life and being, you know, your weight? And you said you work in healthcare, so like you're on your feet a lot, right? So
Oh
all
yeah.
that like I'm assuming that plays some part in it too, but like talk about that, like what was it that made you start your journey?
Yeah. So I've been on this journey for a long time, really since a teenager. You know,
Hmm.
tried tried so many different diets, cabbage soup diet,
Oh
you
god, I had
know.
that one too. That's awful.
I know, right? And I mean, I interestingly enough, I still like cabbage and vegetable soup and stuff. You would think I wouldn't after that whole thing,
Yeah,
but I
I
did.
can't do cabbage still to this
Oh,
day.
man. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's rough. That's a rough one. So yeah, cabbage soup. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done, you know, calorie counting. Even though back then it's easier now because we have technology.
Hmm.
You know, and I can look something up very quickly. Back then, there's like, you know, a book, and you're like, oh, I don't know how to find this, or um,
Yeah.
so tried a variety of things, and so you know, when 2020 started, and really kind of before that, it was just an accumulation. You know, things hurt. Like when you're this big, man, sometimes day-to-day stuff hurts. Knees hurt, back hurts, you know, and I was just feeling kind of crappy, like wasn't feeling my greatest. And so at work, they had started a walking challenge, and so you form teams. And so some of my coworkers wanted to do that. I'm sorry, it was a walking and kind of a weight loss challenge.
Hmm.
And so my coworkers wanted to do that, and yeah, I joined a team with some of them. There were 5 of us total, and that kind of started off in 2020. Now, you know, I won't say that I started that and I was successful and, you know, went gung ho full out on it, because there were definitely times when I still gained weight during that whole process too. But in general, that's when I lost my first like 30 pounds over those, I think it was like 4 months or something like that.
Hmm.
And so it was that point where I was like, okay, let's try to keep going. Let's see what we can do, because I've lost 30, 40 pounds before. And, like I've been to that point multiple times,
Hmm.
and then I stop, and then I gain, and then, so, I don't know why. That's just an odd, I wasn't there yet. My mindset wasn't there yet. And, so that kind of is what kicked it off. And then I just kind of kept going. And, I still had some of my friends to kind of help me stay accountable. And so once that challenge ended, I kept going. I kept updating my weight loss and stuff like that, using, different apps, and just friends, posting on Facebook, and, people could see that. So, that's how it started. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Once you start noticing it yourself, like, because I remember when I first noticed it, was like I saw myself in the mirror and it was like I was like 70 pounds down.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I saw it in my face. I mean, my face now, like, I don't have a double chin so much anymore. And
Yeah.
but even just like it, just noticed it, and I was like, it looks a lot better. And it can sound vain at times, but like we all need vanity sometimes just to get us through, because like sometimes you don't see the scale drop the way you want, but you see like your clothes fit better. You have a
Yeah.
lot of non-scale victories. Um, I don't know if you've had that many yet or so far that you've like really had, because I mean people can't travel and stuff with COVID and all that, but have you experienced any non-scale victories so
Yeah.
far?
So yeah, non-scale victories are great. And, the two that actually have stuck out to me throughout this whole thing is, booths in restaurants. So, like,
Yeah, it's a big one.
avoided booths at all costs, and so there's still kind of a squeeze for me sometimes, but like I can sit in them without being super uncomfortable. So,
Mhm.
so that was one of them where I kind of slid into a booth, very, um, I don't want to say fearful, but kind of fearful. I'm like, it was the only thing they had available, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing. This is not going to end
Yeah.
well. And, but so I slid kind of into that booth, and I was like, all right, this will work. And then, the other one recently, was, I mean, going up and down stairs after a while, you get winded, and really, especially, 100 pounds ago,
Hmm.
definitely going up a few flights of stairs. We're kind of, I get to the top, and I'm like, all right, this is not feel good. This is not fun. And so recently we had to run up 2 flights of stairs for, an emergency at work, and I got to the top, and I was like, oh, I'm okay. So I mean, that was good. That was definitely one of those non-scale victories.
Yeah,
You
that's
know, I,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I had the booth thing last, so we're about a year ago from when this will release. And the first time it was because it was, we were pandemic restrictions.
yeah,
So went to like I was at a Longhorn Steakhouse, a friend we were up in like York area of PA,
okay,
and into Longhorn, and all the tables which were in the center were all blocked off because they were like, nobody's sitting there because of COVID. So I'm like, oh, okay. So booth, and I hadn't tried a real booth. Like I just had a place that had a booth that was like bigger, so I
yeah,
didn't really count that one because it was like huge.
sure,
But then I sat down, and I like almost like I got like, I wouldn't say cried, but like it was like one of those moments where I was like emotional about it a little bit,
yeah,
because it was
absolutely,
just so, like, it had been so long since I was able to do that, and I probably could have done it sooner, but I always had it in my, it was another mindset thing where I didn't have it in my mind that I could do that. And
yeah,
I at that point I'd lost 200, so I was down about right around 400 pounds
okay,
or
good to
so,
hear.
or 415. But yeah, like you said, non-scale victories get me get you through it, especially once you start getting more active. Like, you gain muscle, you lose fat, and you might not see the scale go down as quickly as you used to, but you'll see the inches go down.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That was something to pay attention to too. Like, I just recently bought some new clothes, where it was kind of iffy. Like, it's like, I might be pushing it with this kind of size here. But then I tried them on, and I was like, oh, that actually looks good, in some places that I wasn't able to
mhm.
shop at before.
Yeah, yeah, and like, I
Um,
mean, so I don't know if you shop at DXL or still
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So like I recently had to go back there because I had to get shorts for the summer, because like I usually shop at Kohl's,
okay,
but DXL carries a lot more variety.
yeah,
Like, because
yeah,
at Kohl's I'm in like in the upper end of their sizing.
Sure.
For most, I mean, I can wear like a 3X, so I'm not in this top for shirts, but for shorts, I was like, yeah. So I went to DXL and bought a couple pair, and it hurt my wallet. But when I was there, I was like, at least I didn't like, because so often when you're there, because it just is like, it just kills me when I see like this price of like a graphic tee is like $35 or something. I'm like, we're talking like, just because there's a little extra fabric, like compared to a 3X at any other store is a lot less than the 3X at DXL. So it's the same size, but just because it's sold there,
Yeah,
it's way more expensive, and it just kills me. But you'll get there when you get and I like that we're talking, because I talked to some people that are they've kind of gotten to their goal weight, so they've hit like they've done most of their quote unquote journey. I mean, journey's forever.
Sure. Yeah,
but they've reached their goal, and I talking to you because you're like me, we're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So at times when you're in the journey, and I know you said you've been doing the journey since you were a teenager, do you ever like get discouraged while you're in it because you just want to see it go down, like you want to see the weight go down quicker than what it has been, like say recently? I don't know how it's been in the last few months, but how so A, do you get discouraged, and B, how do you handle it when you do? Because like, I mean, old me, I would go and I would like eat to help my, when I get depressed or angry or happy or and insert emotion.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do you deal with it now compared to what you used to do?
Yeah. So I mean, I definitely still get discouraged. And over these past few months, I've kind of been back and forth between the same, 10, 15 pounds or so. So, lose some, gain some, and so that is discouraging. I mean, and I think the old me would have definitely been like, you know, screw it, like, whatever. But and even now, sometimes, I'm like, you know what, I really want, the cheesesteak, and so like I'm gonna do that. But I've learned through this process, through this past year, that I can do that. I can do that, once, and but I know that that next day, that next meal, has to be something that is going to get me back on track. So, um, you know, because if I let it continue, then it will snowball, and it'll just kind of keep going like it has multiple times before. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, in terms of why, I think um, part of it is that I've come this far. And so uh, I think my mindset has changed a little bit to the point where I'm like, you can keep going. You can hit those bumps in the road, and you can keep going. And, I also think about where I was, and so in terms of like how active I can be now as compared to where I was January 2020, is vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
How I feel about myself, how I think about things, um, my outlook has changed a lot. And so I think the way that I deal with that is just kind of, I've been slowly shifting how I think in general over the past year, and how I can respond to that, because it's very easy to just kind of binge eat and spiral just out of control, and then feel really terrible about yourself, and that just sets off a vicious cycle. And so um, I think forgiving myself, and realizing that one bad meal or two bad meals, whatever, or an absolutely terrible day where I'm just kind of feeling crappy and feeling bad for myself, it doesn't have to reset the whole cycle. It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
turn back into that thing where like I'm just going to give it all up. So
Yeah, and that's like so big, is the giving yourself grace kind of thing, where so often you can see, I mean, people that are share their story and are more transparent about like when they mess up, which I try to be when I do. Sometimes I don't, because you don't always want to post like quote unquote failures.
sure.
But when you do, like so many people have experienced that too, and like they're not gonna like, I found on over my time of cultivating my group of people that I like on Instagram, that I like to be around virtually. You know, that they're going to be there for you, like rooting you on when you fail too. And like, I feel like community and support is such a big part of it too. Cause like if you just had like, people, you know, when we're in high school and people would just call you a fat ass, you know, you don't have that so much when you're an adult. I mean, they might say it in private, like outside, not to your face, but like behind your back, but you
Yeah.
won't hear it so much as much now. Aside from like the kids at the grocery store that might see you and gawk. I used to
Yeah.
get that, but that's different. But yeah, so it just it helps like the community of it, and then it's also just like, you know, like you said, one meal isn't gonna, 1 2 meals 3 meals a week of meals that are not good are not gonna
Yeah.
derail you long term. It might derail you for like a day or a week to get
Yeah.
back on track, to get back from what you did. But again, it's like a lifelong thing. It's not going to be you know, it's not like flipping a switch and you're this new person you weren't for 30 plus years. And you know, it takes a lot of work. It's not easy. But yeah, so I was curious, like as far as like your nutrition that you've changed while you've been on this like latest part of your journey, the last year, have you like switched, have you done like certain types of meals? So like usually you hear keto, paleo, Weight Watchers, which you mentioned earlier, or like maybe low carb instead of being keto or paleo. Is there like some version of a nutrition plan you followed, or did you just kind of just try to be like more healthy and whole foods kind of thing?
Yeah. So and that's funny because I learned about paleo quite a few years ago, and I
Mm-hmm.
was going back through some emails, and that's when again, when I, in my adult life, when I really was trying to kind of lose weight, get healthier, and had a lot of failures. But I learned a lot through that in terms of like eating whole foods and, you know, kind of undoing some of those like, you can't eat, you know, whatever, or or moving away from some of like the quote unquote diet foods because they have tend to have like a lot of sugar and stuff like that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
getting away from some of that. Um, uh, what I That kind of led then into keto, and I used to say that I did keto in 2020 and that's how I lost weight. But people who are hardcore keto continue to correct me that I wasn't really doing like keto the right way. And I'm like, well, I mean, I lost 100 pounds, so I guess it was the right way for me. But, um, I didn't count like macros. Like, I like seeing numbers, but being that strict with it just wasn't for me. And so I followed pretty much low carb, cut out a lot of processed stuff,
Mm-hmm.
cut out extra sugars, um, really, ate good quality proteins, chicken, fish, I mean, steak, like, just good quality proteins, good quality fats, like avocados were a big thing. Um, I didn't go like some keto people. They're like, oh, you can eat as much bacon as you want. I wasn't going that route. I mean, I had bacon, but it just wasn't the route I was going. And then,
Because you know you can do keto and you can still gain weight. Like
well, exactly,
it's
exactly.
possible.
Yeah. It's definitely possible to do keto and still gain weight. And I think some people gain weight on it, and they're like, I've been eating pork rinds all week. I don't understand why I gained weight. And I'm like, well, like you got to get those healthy things in there.
Hmm.
You can't
Yeah,
just eat,
definitely.
can't just eat pork rinds and bacon all week and then and lose weight. You just it doesn't work like that quite so much. Um, so I really focused on kind of whole foods, healthy foods, and then keeping the carbs low. Um, for that year, I pretty much cut out like pasta, rice, potatoes, those types of things, the really high starchy things, and just ate, lots of other vegetables, greens, and I ate carrots, which apparently is a no-no on keto, but I like carrots, so I still ate carrots. Um, but yeah, just lots of vegetables and roasted them a lot. Those seem to be my favorite way to get vegetables in, is roasting them. Um, and so that's what I did. Recently, I have added back in some like whole grains. Um, I had a conversation. So back in February, I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which is ironic because one of the reasons why I was losing weight is because I was always afraid of getting diabetes because I mean, it's just I have a lot of diabetic patients, and I'm like, wow, I don't want those complications. And then uh, so after losing 100 pounds, they're like, oh hey, you're diabetic, but I was diabetic prior to that, just didn't know.
Yeah.
So um, so on the advice of the endocrinologist, he's like, yeah, she's like, you can add in like some whole grains like at a meal or something, and just it's heart healthy, helps to protect your heart, helps to bring your sugar levels down. So occasionally I'll add that stuff back into or have like
Hmm.
sweet potato, something like that. So but yeah, that's pretty much what I did.
Awesome. Yeah. I have a lot of friends that have done many different things that I've met through this weight loss journey of mine since 2018, the latest one. And like there's all like every version of every diet can work for people. Because my thing was with keto, and I talked about this with Gormy on episode 2, was because his whole thing is I mean he's Gormy goes keto.
Yeah,
And we talked about it, and I said, and I've talked about, maybe I didn't talk about it in the episode, but I've talked to him about it other times. And I didn't do keto because I like I like cake, and um B was at the time when I started my journey and all that, I was on blood thinners for having a pulmonary embolism a few years ago.
yeah,
And so I needed my diet to stay consistent, and I was like, I don't want to go near that, because that's
sure,
pretty extreme. It's extreme for, and I just was like, I'm on stuff that I think I'll just stay. And so I would always take, one thing that I always do is I would take pieces of people's stuff that I would see.
yeah,
So like I would take keto meal ideas and then just change them slightly, like because some I've seen keto meals that were like, oh, let's use these 4 different types of cheese, and I was like, how about we use one?
yeah,
um
yeah,
or just other stuff, like where I, instead of like everybody loves cauliflower rice right now, and I can't do it. Like I don't like cauliflower. So I would just use brown rice, right?
yeah.
Stuff like that. So I would slightly change, and brown rice is obviously not keto. But it works for me. So
But yeah, it works.
and that's what it is. It's about build. I find it's about, and I think what you're, same thing you're saying is build a sustainability through it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
and so like I allowed myself, like, I'm in a bunch of keto groups, and not always the most popular answers, because people ask questions, about, well, I want to have a cheat meal or whatever.
Mhm.
Lots of times people are like, you shouldn't do that. It's going to throw you off. It's going to take you another week to get back on track, et cetera, et cetera. And I always tell people, I'm like, for me, I did a cheat meal once a week, so usually on the weekend when my wife and I were both home together and we can actually have a meal together, um, that's when I would do that. And usually it was not just a meal, it was usually that kind of that day or whatever, where I was
Mhm.
just in, I was mindful, like I wasn't like, okay, I'm just going to eat, you know 10 burgers and stuff like that. Like I was still mindful of what I was eating,
Mhm.
but I wasn't, it wasn't like, always keto or low carb, but that's what worked for me. So like knowing
Huh.
that, I didn't have to be as strict, and I still ate like fruit sometimes because I like fruit. So, you know,
Yeah, and not everything's the devil, and and I like the cheat meal, treat meal, take your pick of what you want to call it.
yeah,
I like that to talk about that, because I kind of, people come to me with questions a lot. So about like what to do, like when they start like a diet, because they ask me what I do, and I was like, oh, I do low carb, and I just use that as a umbrella term.
yeah,
And
and that's
the
good.
like a lot of times the second or third thing they ask me is like, well, when can I have a cheat meal? And I said, well, if you're starting to diet, if you're just starting,
Yeah,
cheat meal shouldn't be the second thing you ask me.
yeah,
um I get that you're like, I don't know if I can do it and all that. I was like, how about we just focus on a week, like focus on a week and then talk
yeah,
about a cheat meal. um but usually I'd say like 3 weeks in, when you start, because that way you can kind of create a baseline of what you can do. um and cheat meals, I mean, I did them all the time. Now, right now I carb cycle, so on the weekends I have high carb meals.
mhm,
Most weekends, there's usually one weekend out of every 6 I don't, but that kind of helps me be able to have the stuff that I like have pizza, have wings, have
sure,
cheesesteak. I was in Philly a couple weeks ago, got cheesesteak, right?
nice. You have to, yeah,
Stuff like that, and then get right back on track, quote unquote track, with the low carb, and it works. And it's even some simple stuff like you want a burger and just don't have a bun on it, right?
Yeah.
Or have, if you have 2 burgers, have one with a bun, and then the second one you can just eat without the bun,
Sure.
or stuff like that. Like it's those kind of hacks that I find help people, because so often like you're like, I don't know if I can, like I can't just eat grilled chicken and broccoli every day.
Yeah.
Because that's what it goes back to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't either. I've said this before. I can do lunch. I can do like the same lunch every day for a week at work, but then by the weekend, that's when I need the carb cycle, because I'm like, I need to change, because I'm going to go insane if I eat any more
Absolutely.
grilled chicken or whatever it might be that week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I also just changing up the routine helps, because your body gets, if you eat the same thing every day, your body gets used to it, and it knows how to, you know, fight it, because your body's trying to fight you every single step of the way of the weight loss, because it wants to store it, right? Yeah, that's it's a machine. It's not, it doesn't care what you really want to do, or that you want to you know, be 200 pounds or 300 pounds, whatever it is, whatever your number is, it doesn't care.
Yeah, your body's like, are you trying to kill me now? Like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
exactly.
We've come this far eating delicious things all the time. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go eat a piece of pie, stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely, your body, it does try to, stop you sometimes.
Yeah. All right. So one of the other things, a couple of things I like to ask is kind of, it's what I call the physical and non-physical changes of weight loss. So physical will be people that lose height, lose shoe size, physical. uh, or and then others, but non-physical is you either lose or gain friends, family, like because of like the way. So like the instance would be like kind of more other addictions, but food too. Like you hang out with people because this is what you do, and then you stop doing that thing, and then they kind of become more distant for whatever reason, right? Or like gain people because like you do that challenge at work where you walked a lot, and now like you might do more stuff with those people because you got into like this group, and like you kind of push each other or something like that. And another non-physical is confidence, because I feel like so many of us, like once we start to get rolling on this, like our confidence grows by leaps and bounds. Have you
Sure.
had some of that during this leg of your journey?
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like my feet have gotten a little smaller. Like, it's kind of weird. Like socks fit better,
Mm-hmm.
shoes fit better. Like sometimes, like I mean, this sounds silly to say, and unless you've been, big or very big, like socks, especially like long socks, can really be a challenge. And like sometimes they hurt. They don't fit over like your feet and your legs, and some socks that were supposed to go up a little higher don't, because like your feet are bigger and they swell and stuff like that. So that was definitely one of them. I've gotten some cool new socks, which sounds dumb, but
I mean, you're dead, right? So
yeah,
that's what you get, right?
yeah, exactly. So that's definitely one of those things. Um, I think the way I kind of said this before, the way I feel about myself, like I do feel like I have kind of more confidence. I think there are a lot of times where, like, and even now, like I still feel kind of like an imposter, like,
Mm-hmm.
like and I've I talk to more people who are kind of more health conscious now. People that kind of go to the gym often or have healthier meals, and I kind of like it. It feels better. It feels more natural. I shouldn't say better. It feels more natural now to kind of have conversations with them about stuff like that, because um, like before, when I lost like 20 pounds and no one no one knew about that,
Mm-hmm.
talking to someone about eating healthy or exercise, uh, I feel like people are thinking like, really, like, what do you know about that? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what you're talking about? Or I always thought to myself that people are probably thinking, is the fat guy really talking about,
Yeah.
like this with us? And so um, I don't feel that way usually anymore, unless it's people that I don't know, that I'm kind of like, well, they don't know that I lost all this weight so far. But, you know, the friends that I have gained or people that I've met who know that journey so far, it's just kind of a comfortable, like,
Hmm.
conversation to have with them. And like, there's almost some credibility there. Like, it's not, I don't always feel like an imposter anymore, you know, where I'm just kind of,
Yeah, yes. So like so I don't know how much you tracked in my journey last year, but like I had walked a lot while I was off because I was off from work. It's
yeah, yeah,
not a first responder, right?
yeah,
Um, so and then like last December I started going to the gym, and but I was going to the gym before that, but in December I started working with a trainer because I was like, I want to actually know what I'm doing in the gym,
yeah,
and do better exercises that will help me feel like I'm progressing. And you know, now it's over 6 months of doing that because, spoiler alert, we're recording way early for this episode. And you know, I feel like a lot better, like I'm much more comfortable in the gym, because the gym's,
yeah,
for any of us that were the size we were, it's a scary place because
absolutely.
you don't want to be judged. Like, you always think you're gonna be judged, and like really most people don't give a shit about what you're doing. Every now and then, like, so there's this one guy in the gym that always gives me a fist bump after each time I do, like, I'm in the room with him, like he'll, and that's so important too, because you're getting encouragement from people that you don't
Yeah,
even know. And then so I don't know if you go to the gym or not, but the the other thing I was getting at was, you know, a couple of weeks ago, like I noticed it's only like it's only when I go on certain days, like later in the day, like around 6 or so, and you'll see people that, like, it's mostly teenagers ish, and like that they'll kind of like stare a little bit, and I'm like, I mean, I've just lost 200 plus pounds, so I'm like, I feel fantastic.
yeah, yeah,
But I still see, like, you know, because you always have that, you're always like observing the whole room, like
yeah,
looking at you, right? And so and I just I saw him kind of snicker, and I was like, really? And I
yeah.
just rolled my eyes. I'm sure they saw me roll my eyes. But so getting out of that ramble, do you go to the gym, or do you just the walking? Because I know I've seen you go hiking on your Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a gym membership. I've had a gym membership for several years. And what's funny, and I mean, it's been several years. I was going to the gym as a guest of someone else,
Hmm.
and I was going consistently. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to join. And so I joined the gym, and then I did not go back to the gym since the day I joined that gym myself. That was, many things happened. You know, it kind of blew up with the person I was going with. Just kind of schedules changed, things happened, and
Hmm.
then, you know, we couldn't go anymore, and so I kind of lost that support. And then my work schedule, like, I work evening shift, and then so, you know, it just wasn't working because, you know, I had at least one child home for the past several years, so to find time to go to the gym was just not in there. So I haven't yet. I'm starting a new work schedule soon, and um, the kids aren't going to be home all the time now because, you know, things are opening back up. They're going to like a summer camp and stuff like that. So I do plan on starting going to the gym, but I mean, I would just walk a lot, you know, walking, hiking, picked up hiking, love that now. And people, like, you're right. It's like people do still kind of look, and that's when then I feel like, oh, I'm still that fat guy. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I had a kind of funny story. So when I was in Philly, with I met up with two other Instagram friends, uh, friends, not just Instagram friends,
yeah,
and like we had never met up before. We met in Philly because I'm in Baltimore now, and they live in New York, so it was a nice middle ground.
yeah, okay,
And
nice.
like we went around the city, like we walked from Reading Terminal Market. I know, I'm sure you know where that is.
Yeah, yeah,
We walked from Reading Terminal Market to Love Park to the art museum.
okay,
Okay, now me 3 years ago, no effing way am I walking that far. I'm not even sure I walked to Love Park from Reading Terminal, and it's like just a few blocks,
sure.
let alone the art museum's like 2 miles. But so we did this, like we hung out all day and stuff, and then we went to the Rocky statue, and like they'd never been there, so I don't think. But so we got pictures in front of the Rocky statue. This
Yeah,
lady who's taking the picture, she's like, and she, so one guy goes up and he's lost like 270 pounds, so he's like in the I think he's like in the 250s, 260s.
yeah,
And then I go up, you know, and And she's like, oh yeah. And she's like, I like my men big. And then when we ran up the Rocky steps, the art museum steps, got to the top, did all that, took pictures. This one guy's like, you guys want me to take your picture? He's like, and I was like, nah, I'm good. And I had a Reese Hoskins jersey. He's like, Hoskins. He's like, I won't mess with you. You're a big guy. And I'm like, and I just said to them, because we were like combined, I think we had lost like 930 pounds, right? And so I said, hey guys, I said, what's it like being the skinny friend? and it was just, yeah, because like we all, like one was 400, one was 500, I was 600, like at the heaviest, right? And I was like 200, just under 300, and then still and 370s, right? So it's just like one of those times where you're like can't get away from it, but it's kind of like this guy has no clue. I mean, because he doesn't. He's just a guy at the top of the steps. It's not any different.
Exactly.
But that's when you observe it. You're like, you just hear it and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, I do try to remind myself of that too, because like people don't know your journey. People don't know what you've been through. Because people don't look at you as like a big person and then think, oh my God, this guy used to be a lot bigger. Like no one, like people aren't thinking that, people are thinking, okay, this is just, a big guy. And yeah, I do try to remind myself of that people have, that they just don't know. And people, I don't think in general people are trying to be malicious. I think I mean, people have always said, oh hey, it's a big guy, or again, I'm not gonna mess with you, things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't think anyone ever means it as anything bad usually. Like, I mean, yes, there are people who are genuinely trying to make fun of you for that, but I just think they're kind of in their own way trying to be like, hey, it's okay, and try to make you feel more comfortable. But yeah, that is.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I really think that most of the maliciousness kind of leaves once you get out of high school. Like there's too much going on in everybody's lives to really care that much about like poking fun at people. Granted, you get some beers in people and it'll come out, but most of the time it's not you're not gonna see it maliciously. It's just that you do notice, because like people of course notice. I mean, I told this on an episode at some point, and I said, a couple weeks ago I had gone to a restaurant up in York, diner, and I was sitting there in a booth, and I saw a guy come in, and he was like near my old size.
Yeah.
And I just was, it was one of those things where I was like, I was kind of staring, but I was kind of not so much at him, but at that used to be me kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I just was like, I wasn't even, I even decided now, but I was just like, not, I guess astonished kind of, because it's just like, you don't realize it when you're in it, like how it is. Like you just, this is just how it is. This is how it's gonna be. It's kind of like your mantra when you're that big, and you're like, I'm not gonna let this affect my life. I'm gonna do everything normal thing. And truth is, like, you can try to do most of the normal stuff, but then you can't do everything. Like you can't, even stuff like simple as, I mean, we both live in well, I'm like technically a southern state, I guess, in Maryland, but we live in an area that gets snow.
Yeah.
And shoveling snow is not easy when you're super obese.
Yeah.
Cutting the grass, if you cut the grass, I don't currently cut grass, but I could pay somebody to do it. But even doing that is not easy at super obese. Walking around a mall with your kids, I'm sure, is not easy at super obese. All those kind of normal things are hard.
And what's funny is, shoveling the snow. Now, the past 2 years in Pennsylvania, we had a bunch of snow, and I hate the snow just because. I mean, I like the snow as a kid.
I hated it once I had to take care of it.
Exactly. Yes. Now that I have to take care of it, now that I have to still get to work, like the hospital's like, hey, we know it snowed 6 foot. See you when your shift starts. Be safe driving in. Like, so like I have to get out there and get in. But so last year, well, before I kind of lost, this weight, shoveling, I mean, it was a task. My back would hurt. I'd have to stop. Like it took a long time. And this year, when the snow came, there were times when I had to shovel, and some of it was a lot, and it was a lot easier. It was less pain. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. There's still that doubt for me, like a lot of times, a lot of things. Like we're going, next week I'm going on vacation to the beach, and just today I was just kind of sitting thinking, like, oh my God, we're probably gonna like it's gonna be a lot of walking. Like and so before I'd get out of breath, again, knees would hurt, back would really hurt, start to cramp up, just walking normal distances that
Yeah.
people walk. And I had to remind myself that like I go hiking.
Yeah.
So like, and like, I mean, they're not the most super challenging trails and stuff, but it's usually 2 miles, 4 miles. Like when we were just in Maine, I hiked the Jordan Pond Loop, and that was a 4 mile kind of hike. And I'm like,
Hmm.
so I'm like, you can walk that. You're fine. Like don't be afraid. But it's still that mindset. It's that old mindset where like just
Yeah.
twisting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and some of that is too is, you know, a lot of people you might hear say like they like to kill their clone, or
Okay.
like, or which was their former self, what they
Sure.
call the former self. And I always say, I like to say is I never wanted to kill who I was. I wanted to see myself who I wanted to be, because
Sure.
I still am the same. I still have a lot of the same interests that I
Yeah.
had at that large size, because not everything is about talking about weight loss. Like I like obviously I like the Philadelphia Eagles right behind me, right?
Yeah.
I like you know, movies. I like TV shows, all kinds of stuff. Like I'm sitting in my man cave. I have movie posters on the wall. I have movie posters right in front of me. And you know, like you didn't lose who you were. You just changed a very big part of yourself.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so often like people want to like act like that person was like a different person than you. And I feel like that person's always inside of you, and it was that person that was strong enough to make changes that were extremely hard.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point, actually. That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just like to point that out, because sometimes I feel like people, I feel like it just gets forgotten, because it's like you like all the kudos that you get as you progressing, and like you post
Yeah.
weight losses and you post transformations and you put like, or whatever it might be. That's why I liked like on your website when you post your blogs that you write, and
Yeah.
you have like certain ones about being diabetic or about different things, and it's just like because you kind of have like I want to say like a holistic approach where you're like talking about different aspects than just the look at me, I lost all this weight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
I think it's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love that recognition. Like I love like a kudos,
Oh yeah.
and there have definitely been times where I'm like, oh, like no one has said, hey, you look good, or hey, you lost a bunch of weight, and I'm like, well, what's going on? But I mean, I do I try not to always make that the focus, because
Hmm.
I think it is so much more. Like you need
Oh yeah.
it is a holistic type
Hmm.
approach where you know if you're just looking to move those numbers down on the scale, it's going to be hard because they don't always move down, and that's where like non-scale victories come in and stuff. But
Hmm.
you know sometimes I'm like, okay, I lost a pound this week, but I feel better, I feel good this week. I was able to do whatever thing, walk another mile during a hike or whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's awesome. So, kind of getting towards the end here. Uh, I like to ask everybody about a hobby or interest that they have, and I was just curious what yours is for this discussion.
Sure. Yeah, so I kind of took up two different ones, two new hobbies over the past year. So one of them, obviously, hiking, and I kind of post about that on the website and on my IG. I mean, it's just a beautiful, like I like beautiful hikes. I've been on some boring hikes, and I'm like, oh, this is not fun. So now I actually look for hikes where I'm like that are really nice.
Hmm.
So that has just been really, really good. And obviously that's health related. But the other thing I took up actually at the beginning of 2020 when I was trying to lose weight, and again, because of some of the coworkers that were in this group with me, was crocheting, which sounds weird for a guy. We'll call it brocheting, right? So
Brocheting, yeah.
I, so I have three kids. I have two girls. They'll be 5 and 7. And then my oldest one, Harrison, my son, he's 9. And they would like see all these like little stuffed animals that they wanted. And so, I was like, and they were the crocheted things, like they're called amigurumi. And so they're like, oh, we want that, we want that, we want that. And I was like, okay. And then my girls were like, oh, we want these head bows, and they were into those types of things. And so one of my friends was like, they're like, you can make those, like you can learn how to do that. So I did, like I learned how to do those things, but it was really almost like I say like a meditative type thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it just becomes one of those things that I did that kind of helped to, you know, calm your brain. One of those things where you can kind of like shut it off and stuff like that. So yeah, those are two hobbies that I still kind of that I enjoy doing right now.
Awesome. So yeah, the meditative aspect of the crocheting or brocheting, I found that for me last year, when I was walking every day, like I walk like 2-3 hours a day,
Yeah.
like just sub development. I'm not like not like I'm walking through downtown Baltimore or something, but I'd walk every day, and like I just found myself, like it's just because I was just in my head, like I was just like I listen to podcasts or I listen to music, but the whole time I'm just like thinking about stuff, thinking about like whatever it might be for the day. And I think like that opportunity to do that is really important.
Yeah.
Hiking, so I know you said you were hiking in Maine. Do you have any like other places you want to go, like hike, that you haven't been to yet, like big, like, so like I went 2 years ago, I went to Yellowstone, and like last September we went to Glacier National Park and hiked,
Oh, very
and that was
cool.
pretty cool. It was different because never saw my I never saw my fat ass ever wanting to go hiking.
Yeah, seriously, right? I know. Yeah, me either. Me either. I'm like, oh, that seems like nice when people do it, but like, oh, it's not for me. But yeah, we definitely want to hit. So like my wife, we've always, since we've known each other, have had kind of interest in like national parks and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
so I definitely want to hit Yellowstone and Glacier and Badlands, and um, there are definitely places where I'm like, yeah, I want to hike these places, and so there are places in Pennsylvania too that are beautiful, like the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon.
Hmm.
Um, there's like, what is it, Ohio Pile? I think that's how you say it.
Hmm.
Um, that's a good one. Where so there, yeah, there's a lot of places where I went to. There's still places in Maine that I want to hike. We took the kids on hikes kind of here to get them like prepared for it, but we didn't do we still hiked there, but we also did things that they really wanted to do and see. So it wasn't as much hiking as like we had hoped or that we had wanted to do. So there are definitely still places in Maine and Acadia that
Yeah.
and there are some that I'll probably never hike. Like there's a really difficult one like the Beehive or something, which is like one of the hardest ones they have there. You would
Hmm.
think such a cute name like the Beehive. You wouldn't think it'd be a hard hike, but I mean, it seems it's a pretty difficult one. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
the I'm trying to think. But yeah, so cool thing, because you said national parks, and I got into going to national parks because it's like, so it's nice, and it's right, like it's safe, and mostly safe because like it's controlled, right, in a
yeah,
way, because they have rangers and stuff going out, so you're not like in the wild.
exactly.
So we went to, in 2019 we went to Pikes Peak, Mount Rushmore, Devil's Tower. We went on this trip from Denver to Seattle, Yellowstone, and then we hit up. We were in Washington, so we went to Mount Rainier, and so like while I was at Mount Rushmore, they had I saw they had like this passport book for like the national parks. And
Oh,
basically, it's like a passport, and you can like it gets at every national park they have like a station, like the Welcome Center has like a place where you can get stamps. You can like stamp this book. It's
oh,
kind of
nice.
cool. It's kind of a little cool thing. It's a cool little thing.
Yeah,
It costs like $10 to get the book, but I'm like, and it's just a cool thing. I have it in like my travel bag. I just keep it in there, and then when I go somewhere, if I go somewhere, I can go hit a place that I haven't been. My goal is eventually to get to one in all 50 states.
nice. Yeah,
So I've got like Washington, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado, and South Dakota now, as
nice.
well as but I've never like I've been in Pennsylvania all my life. I don't have any from Pennsylvania or Maryland, and Maryland has like Fort McHenry in Baltimore is a national park.
Yeah,
It's not quite the same as like Yellowstone, but it's still a national park, and just to get one from each state. And I think it's a cool thing because like eventually one day I want to do like the Alaska cruise where you go up to the glacier and all that, but
Yeah, yeah, very
that's
cool.
years away. uh and Hawaii is farther to get to too, but you know, it'd just be cool to get those because hiking's, I even have like hiking boots now, which is weird because
Yeah, yeah, me too, right?
which come really in handy in snow.
They really, absolutely. That's how I justify it too. I'm like, yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna need them for snow, but in reality, I'm like, I'm gonna take hiking seriously.
Yeah, yeah, and it's pretty good. It's nice out in nature. The only thing you have to worry about out west is bears.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I actually bought bear spray when I was in Glacier because it's bear country,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's a $50 can of bear spray because they know how to get you. And it's
Yeah,
pressurized, so it's not like I couldn't bring it back because it
you
was
can bring it back.
pressurized. So I
Yeah.
just threw it out because I didn't even use it. And
Wow.
I tried to sell it, like I tried to sell it on Facebook Marketplace before I left. And of course, we had flown in and out of Seattle because we used to live there in the summers with my dad.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, it's an opportunity to go to Seattle again. So we just drove from Seattle to Montana and came and drove back.
Okay.
And then when I got back to the hotel in Seattle, somebody messages me and says, "Oh yeah, I'll take your bear spray." Because I was offering it for like 30, 25 or $30 instead of 50 because I just wanted to
Okay.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, too bad, too late.
Too late
Uh,
for that. Sorry.
yeah. So that's cool. Especially just, you know, you had the opportunity to like get active and more ability to go hiking, and then also just the
Yeah.
picking up a different hobby like the crocheting because it's something
Yeah.
different, you know. And we've had people that have, I mean, we talked about sports and movies and stuff like that. Then we had one of the guests, I'm not sure if he's again recording way ahead in advance. He was into like kite making and flying, and
Oh,
it's just like, and the reason I like to ask this is kind of gives more of an look into who you are instead of just like your weight loss story, because while that's interesting as hell, you know, we get to know a little bit more, and it's becoming, the podcast is called Becoming More. uh,
yeah.
so, all right, so
And you know what's funny? You know what's funny about crocheting? So like, again, that used to be something because it's not a stereotypical like male thing to do, you know. And
mhm,
so when I was doing it, someone's like, oh, like crochet, like trying to like take a jab, like a shot.
mhm,
Which I mean, when you're a big guy, you're used to that, just
yeah.
about something different.
Yeah.
So I just remember though, I said to them, and I was like, well, yeah, I was like, but you know what? Like, it makes my kids happy because like my kids, like my both of my daughters really love like hair bows and hair bands, and I can just make that stuff for them, and they're thrilled. They're so happy by it,
Mhm.
and so I'm like, it really makes them happy, and so I'm like, well, yeah, I said so. I do that. I do like that, and it's. I think as a father, I mean, it sounds cliche, but you know, I part of why I do the things I do is for my children, like, whether that be, crocheting things or losing weight, getting healthy.
Mhm.
Um, it's partly for them. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a big motivation, right? For so many. I mean, I've talked to some others that, you know, you want to be there to walk them down the aisle and stuff like that too, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, and getting healthy is the best way to ensure that happens.
yeah.
All right. So, kind of wrapping up here, I do a segment called Brett's Corner where I ask you 5 questions, and they're random, but they're the same every time. Uh, so, question number 1 is, what movie, TV show, or event are you most excited for in the coming year?
Um, there are a lot of like little kind of like local events coming up
Hmm.
like that my wife and I are actually really looking forward to doing. So like there's the Hot Air Balloon Festival near us here, so in Pennsylvania, down in Lancaster, if anyone's familiar with Lancaster. I don't know who I'm sure the people who are listening are from all over the place, but
Yeah.
so there's the Hot Air Balloon Festival. A lot of the fall festivals are coming up. There's a couple of things happening like this summer that we're looking forward to, and so we'll actually have the time to do it. And you know, especially after 2020, where things were kind of just closed down and there wasn't much to do like that. So I'm looking forward to a lot of those things that we used to get out and do in the community um, that we haven't had a chance to do. So,
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. There's plenty of like stuff because finally this year you can do stuff. I don't know. Do they still do? Are they doing community days this year?
I think they're doing community days.
Yeah. I mean,
And again,
I lived right behind, I lived a block behind it the one year when I lived in Shillington. So,
oh,
and that is
nice.
a very localized talk about community days, but
That is, that really is.
it's like a local carnival. All right. Number two, what are two non-health related goals you have for the next year?
One of them, I guess I guess it's not really. I mean, it is sort of health related, kind of more mental health. Um, just kind of getting into like a meditative type practice. Like some of my friends have kind of started doing that, and I think in terms of like we started doing it at the hospital. Some of the doctors and stuff are have been leading like these mindfulness meditation type things, and so there's been a lot of good like information about that. In terms of like the benefits, and so I think that's one of the things that I want to try to do this year is kind of get some type of practice going like that. So
Hmm.
not really weight loss related, kind of mental health related, but yeah, that. And then the other thing I want to do is try to learn a language this year. So I took French in high school, know a little bit of Spanish, but nothing fluent, and so I really do want to learn a
Yeah, just un peu français.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I used. I was in Paris a couple years ago, and that's what I said a lot.
Nice.
Because, uh,
Like just I don't know.
yeah, because I took 4 years of French
Yeah,
at our high school,
yeah,
and I took three semesters of Spanish in college
yeah,
because they didn't have French at the time. Because I was like, oh, I'll just do French again, but they didn't have it. And what's fun is when you take both classes and when you mix French in with Spanish, because you
yeah,
don't realize you do it because it's just stuff that calls back.
exactly.
And yeah, because stuff is very similar in those languages. So yeah, that's cool. Do you have any language that you are thinking you might want to go for, or is it just just something
Yeah,
will hit you?
yeah. I think I'm still back and forth between French or Spanish because so like you, I did 4 years of French in high school, and then I took 2 semesters of Spanish in college, and that is true. My teacher, my professor in college, she's like, I can tell which one of you took French because
Yeah.
of how you're pronouncing certain things. So I'm kind of going back and forth between both of them. I mean, for me, Spanish would be the most practical, but
Hmm.
French I have a better basis for. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I might do that and kind of go
Yeah.
back.
Just remember, it's L, not L, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's where I used to always get messed up. All right, cool. That's very cool because it's something different. You ever use like the apps that they have like for language stuff, like
Yeah,
Duolingo or?
yeah, I have Duolingo. Yeah,
Yeah,
Duolingo.
I was doing that before I went. I was doing that before I went to Paris. That didn't help.
It didn't help at all.
But what the best part is like you just get on the app, the Uber app, and you don't have to type French. You can type
Oh,
English. Because I got really confused trying to use the metro in Paris, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna do Uber and just pay for it, pay a little bit extra, and know where I'm going.
yeah. Yeah, I never realized how. So you're down. You live in Baltimore or
Yeah,
in Maryland, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So I went to school in Arlington. I went to college in Arlington, right
hmm,
outside of DC.
yeah,
And so I never realized how um, kind of easy it was to use that metro system
hmm,
until I've been to other places that have like subways and metros, and I'm like, this is confusing.
yeah, and then it's confusing in a foreign language.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
And I was just like, yeah, I don't know where I'm going. All right. Question number three. If I'm sorry, if someone came to you saying they were lacking motivation to stay consistent, what three pieces of advice would you give to them?
Um, oh, that's a good one. So I think what helped me stay consistent is the, I kept it simple or went back to it being simple. So on days when I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore, I can't do this anymore, I would go back to those simple meals and um, thinking about it in a simple manner where every meal was a new decision. And so that's how I approached every time. And I was like, okay, well, for breakfast, you can either, make a decision to eat a Pop Tart, or you can, have like eggs and some avocado, you know, and so just by keeping it simple like that, or, um, meal prepping, things like that. So meal prepping is another thing where I think helped me stay motivated because when I wanted to eat other things besides healthy things, it was a lot easier to kind of reach into the fridge for a meal that I already had packaged and prepped. And, you know, if I was just not motivated to stay on track, that, you know, that same old meal may not have motivated me, but it kept me on track because it was there. It was kind of that crutch that I relied on, you know, and so it would kind of get me back in the mood. You know, I'd eat that meal and I'm like, okay, I can keep doing this. This isn't so terrible. So yeah, keeping it simple, meal planning, and the last one is really go easy on yourself, forgive yourself. You know, some people can really go about it hardcore for a long time and be really strict. And but for me, and I think for a lot of people, that kind of almost sets you up for failure sometimes. So knowing that you're human, knowing that this is a long process, it's not going to happen overnight for you, and then, you know, forgiving yourself for those mistakes, because you can just move on then. You know, if you're you know, going off plan, going off whatever your plan is, and you acknowledge that and forgive yourself, you can move forward for that next meal or that next day or whatever, next exercise, whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Question number 4 is, what have you discovered about yourself during your journey or transformation that surprised you the most?
So after I hit that like 40-pound weight loss, um, like I said, I've lost 30, 40, 50 pounds before and put that back on and then some, because I get to that point and then I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I did it. Awesome. And then I stop paying attention to it. So then I fall back into those old ways. And so this time it was that I can do it. I can go further, and that, um, you know, like I'm strong enough. I'm mentally strong enough to continue doing that. So I think when you fail so many times, I mean, literally for like, you know, 20 years, especially like, you know, so I'm 35. So if I've been dieting or trying to diet and trying to lose weight since I was like in high school, like 14, 15, literally 20 years of failures of trying to do that
Yeah.
and continuing to kind of gain weight, you know, you start to wonder, you know, can I actually do this? Uh, and, you know, I mean, I've proven to myself that I can. And so now I have to kind of keep going. Like, and I was really surprised, and I tell my doctor this all the time. I'm still always surprised at the fact that I haven't gained it all back. That I'm still, that I've lost 100 pounds, and that I'm still moving forward, and that I haven't kind of slid back into all of those old things. And so yeah, that was definitely something surprising, and then I've learned that, you know,
Yeah.
I'm good. I can do it.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And it's nice when you see that you can do it and don't slide backwards, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think it's more motivation, even in the times when you eat like an asshole, and then you're like, oh, I'm still like basically the same spot. Like, I didn't really lose too much because I have other healthy habits that I've developed over time.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right. Question 5. It's the last one. It's my personal favorite one. Um, if in 150 years science fails to save us and all that is left is a book about your life, what would the title be, and what would the blurb tell us about Anthony?
Um, I think something I say a lot is, you know, oh, I was just getting ready to do that. My wife literally says to me, she's like, "That's going to be the title of your book." I was just getting ready to do that, and I mean, I'm a procrastinator. I really am.
Mm-hmm.
In college, I wrote my best papers like at the during the 12th hour. Like they're like, "It's due at midnight," and I'm starting it at like 10:30 at night. You know, so you know, I've put a lot of stuff off all the time, and um, sometimes I still do, but I think now, you know, getting better, being better, you know, is one of those things that I've kind of stopped putting off.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I still say, oh, I was just getting ready to do that, and sometimes when I think, oh, I'll do it, I'll start this habit tomorrow, or I'll go for a walk tomorrow. Like I'm off the next 2 days, I'm going to do this for tomorrow, and then I think to myself, no, let's go do it today. So. Uh, I guess I've stopped. I've procrastinated less now. You know.
Yeah. Hey, that's good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, that's the end of the questions. No more. So what I like to do at the end of each show is give you a chance to plug anywhere that people can find you on the internet, like your website or your handles on social media. So go ahead.
Sure, yeah. So people can find me. So I have a website, fatdadgetsfit.com. That's my name on Instagram. I think it's like fatdadgetsfit01 or 01. And the same thing on Facebook, same fatdadgetsfit. So those are the places you can find me. I'm pretty sure I follow you on a lot of things like Instagram and stuff like that, and we've interacted. So people can kind of find me through you too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I hang out a lot. So
cool. And I will add all those to the show notes, so people can just click the link and find your page, find your website,
yeah.
and check it all out. Like I said, his website has a lot of good blogs that you write, so that's always cool to read.
Yeah,
It's more long form than Instagram is.
Yeah, definitely still a work in progress. So I'm trying to get better. That really should be a goal that I have this year. I'm trying to get better at writing consistently on there. But yeah, I mean, I love when people kind of reach out and chat, and anyone can drop me like a DM on Instagram or reply to a post or whatever. I love talking with people. So
awesome. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and thanks to everyone for listening or watching this episode all the way to the end. You made it. Congratulations. Make sure you check out, like I said, make sure you check out the show notes for links and anything and everything we mentioned in this episode. Be sure to check out my website, becomingbrett.com. You can follow me at Becoming Brett on Instagram and Twitter, and you can follow the show on Instagram at Becoming More Pod. Until next time, give us a 5-star review, or if you don't think we deserve it, DM me and maybe we can work to make you give us that 5-star review. And make sure you come back next week so we can learn how we can all become more.